Welcome to PolyCast, a civilization podcast focused on game strategy.
CanusAlbinus,
Makahlua,
TheMeInTeam,
MegaBearsFan.
Something, something, something.
Something else.
nothing but trail. Wait, did I really close all the topics? Nice.
Then it's time to begin the drum roll. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hello, everybody. Welcome to 2023 and PolyCast episode 414. 414. That's a big number. So today we're joined with our usual cavalcade of peoples. We've got Makahlua.
I kept thinking that 414 was like a weird error number, but I'm thinking of when we did 404.
Yep. TheMeInTeam.
Getting closer and closer to halfway to 1,000.
MegaBearsFan.
Should I have taken down my Halloween decorations by now?
And me, CanusAlbinus.
Well, Halloween decorations would at least be relatively novel relative to other decorations that are likely to be still around if they are. Give the other season some extra love, I suppose.
This year was the year that I learned what Epiphany was. So I have now learned that it is okay to leave Christmas decorations up until January 6th.
Why 6th?
Because Epiphany is the 6th of January, and it is the 12th day of Christmas,
Oh, okay.
according to the Catholic tradition.
But so help us, if those decorations are up on January 7th, you are evicted.
I don't know about that. So, do we have any ideas for quotes that we want for text that aren't in the game currently? Because I'm kind of annoyed by the fact that they keep adding all of these pop culture references for ancient things, like it makes sense to do it that way.
Oh, but I like the one in this thread for mysticism.
Yeah.
Look,
Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
do not cite the deep magic to me, which I was there when it was written. I mean, it's not ancient in terms of real world time, but it's from an ancient being, as it were, so it kind of fits.
Yeah. I guess the one for civil service is okay. Diversity in council, unity in command, stated by Cyrus the Great. I don't like this one for mass media by Barack Obama that basically says modern culture sucks.
Now bend over. That's a good one for Railroad, I'm sure. I'm sure that would get greenlit by Firaxis.
Elton John for rocketry is really good. I'm a rocket man. Rocket man burning out his fuse up here alone.
Yeah, I'm amused by that one, but I'm not so. I don't know.
There are a lot of great quotes that don't get used. Does anybody have any unique ones that aren't on this list, though?
What?
I think you're asking more of my brain than I can caffeine right now.
Yeah. I think one for Code of Laws could be something from the U.S. Constitution. Although that would be a little bit more political, I think. I would say take the 10th Amendment.
Or the Magna Carta.
Well, I think the 10th Amendment makes more sense for that because of what it specifically deals with.
I think you could grab an old Roman version and actually put it in Latin, but intentionally mispronounce it in some butchered way. Make everybody upset.
Somebody in the thread suggested Carthago delend est, which is Carthage must be destroyed. But I think that's already appeared a few times.
I remember that achievement in EU4. It was fun.
For those wondering, the 10th Amendment is the one that says that if the United States doesn't have the powers written to it in the Constitution, and if the states haven't prohibited the government from doing it, all of those rights belong to the states and the people.
No infringing on my memes.
Well, it's probably the most abused Bill of Rights member, so...
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know. That's debatable.
The federal
So we don't
government...
want to get too far into PolitiCast, but...
the federal
there are
government
plenty of
does too
abuses.
much. Don't Department of Education me.
Well, okay. So maybe we should move along and pass along, perhaps, to a leader pass topic here. We've got 3 Chinas. We have Yongle, Wu Zaitan, and Unifier. Right. The they put that in gold rather than his name because he's the unifier.
Yeah, I did find that quite humorous that his name is Unifier, his subtitle is Qing Shi Huang.
Yep. KOSH's new name is Unifier.
All we have so far is a release date, and that's January 19th, which is 5 days after the record date of this episode. Damn it, Firaxis, why?
Oh, we're back to that again, are we?
It's in the contract. That's just how it goes.
I also want to say, why does Yongle not look Chinese at all?
I don't see a problem.
I guess the question is, what were they using as their source for the image? Because usually with these historic leaders like this, there's some artwork from history that they base the representation on. So maybe that's just what he looks like in whatever painting or whatever they used as the inspiration.
Now I can respect a unifier because that's what I do in the game. So that's probably the correct choice.
I would like to point out that China should not be receiving any new content. In fact, it should be banned from receiving new content due to all of its political issues. But, that's just me.
We can not involve modern politics in the game. It's okay.
I also think that there should be no Russian Civ in future Civs.
Yeah, of course. Of course you think that. That being said, I would still like to see more out of areas that have not really been given as much attention, just generally. Just because it'd be interesting. We have enough variety now where, it's probably okay to put in more obscure stuff.
Can we have more than just 2 or 3 Native American tribes per American continent?
I still want to see more of India. I think that's probably the most underrepresented in Civ across its iterations.
There's something like 100 different languages that are spoken in India.
Yeah, although Africa's the king of that, but there've been multiple impressive empires and cultures over the centuries there, and in previous iterations of Civ, they lumped some of those together as if they're one cohesive thing. Which I think I have said in previous shows is kind of like giving the United States the totem pole. You could do it that they were physically on the same land as the U.S., but come on now.
We need to remind everybody about the Native American civilization or the Holy Roman civilization.
I liked the Native American Empire.
I do, however, like the approach that Civ 6 took by having Holy Roman emperors be leaders of certain civs, and potentially being the same leader could potentially be the ruler of multiple civs or stuff like that. I think that's a good way of doing something like the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh, what would be obnoxious is that they go the other way around and have 12 different possible leaders for the Holy Roman Empire. So.
There's a Holy Roman Emperor Civ, but the options for leaders are basically every European leader in the game.
There you go. No, I'm the emperor. No, I'm the emperor.
That's what we need. We need HRE mechanics in Civ.
No.
No.
You can have an HRE game where every faction is just a Holy Roman Emperor leader, and they all have to fight each other to be the Holy Roman Emperor.
I mean, I could certainly see that as a custom mode, but man, putting HRE mechanics in the game would just be.
It would have to be.
I'm trolling. I'm not seriously suggesting that. It is way too narrow a scope for a Civ's time period. But
I could also imagine a election process for Holy Roman Emperor being something along the lines of the Apostolic Palace from Civ 4, but obviously without the instant win in the middle of the game ability.
I think that might be cool, in the context of a Civ itself, for HRE Civ. If you were to include an HRE Civ, have that election be a factor in your mechanics and have different things come available based on what happens with that.
Do something with the city-states.
Yeah.
All the city-states band together and become the Holy Roman Empire.
No. That never happened. The
Holy Roman revoke your privilege of independence. Get wrecked.
The Holy Roman Empire is famous for being a mass of cats that needed herding constantly.
Well, that is a pretty good proxy for city-states, to be fair.
Well, I'm just thinking, make it sort of like Alexander from Civ 5, where he gets a bonus towards city-states, and this being Germany, of course, and gets some sort of imperial authority bonus from having lots of them as part of his retinue.
Yeah. I think some of those city-state oriented mechanics would have been a better fit for E3.
Anyway,
Yeah,
do we
we've
have
gotten
any?
quite far away from China. Do we
Yeah,
have information on their individual bonuses?
We have no information at all about them. All we have is this picture and the release date of January 19th.
Then my estimate is that the unifier is the correct choice, but we'll have to see.
My estimate is Free Tibet.
The Dalai Lama leads China in.
Oh boy, no.
Trollololo.
Why are we giving recognition to mainland Taiwan?
I still love that way of referring to them. Yeah, mainland Taiwan.
Okay, since that's all we have, we should move on to our next old topic.
It's 2023. Are you still playing Alpha Centauri? Because there are people. This looks like it's like a brand newish review.
There's apparently still people reviewing Alpha
Yeah.
Centauri, not
It's
just
like,
playing it.
I mean, this is going over the basics and things, but they did recognize back in 1999, 24 years ago. Yikes!
Yeah, before numerous people were born.
Yes, although none of us.
That's true.
Yeah, nobody in the chat currently. They did give it a 9 out of 10. Although it has stars beneath it, like it's 4 out of 5 stars, but it's a 9. That's confusing slightly. And the only things I didn't like about that is because the interface is not up to like modern standards, which, yeah, it's a little bit different. The visuals are dated. Well, it's a 24-year-old game. I mean, come on.
Well, it looks like it's 4.5 stars, which would be 9. But yeah, it is weird to have both a numeric score and a star
And
score.
stars. That confused me when I got down there. At first, I was like, wait.
It's probably because they're using a system that can only use 5 stars visually.
Nah.
Oh, there's also there's a third one too. There's a bar on top of it that says overall, the big blue bar.
Yeah.
That goes up 90% of the way and then has a 9.0 written next to it. Yeah, this is a
Well,
lot
they
of,
put the 9 multiple times, so it's really just a numerical score, and then they divided that in half so they could get 4.5 out of 5 stars. I mean, it's self-consistent at least.
Oh yeah, it's not like one of them says that it's a 3-star game and the other says it's a 90% game, and
Yeah, that would
Something
be
that feels like
interesting.
that. But the thing is, here we are in 2023. New people are still coming to the game and still really, really enjoying it. Because on the pro side, it's got the solid gameplay. It's a great customization. All the leaders are memorable characters, which that's something even with Civ. Some of the leaders are memorable, but some of them,
Oh,
don't
Civ
really-
has so many.
yeah, Civ has so many, so they're not because they did good because they only had the 7 leaders originally. Although they do say that the Alien Crossfire leaders kind of got a little muddled, which some of them weren't so much, but some of them the backstory just kind of I do remember that. And they
My
did
one
like
criticism of this article in particular is that they only mention nerf stapling in passing, but not how it's an objectively correct and moral decision that you should be making in the game anytime it makes sense.
24 years later, he's still nerve stapling you. Don't vote Phil for your
I
supreme
resemble that
leader.
remark, and I would appreciate if you did not slander me.
Didn't you play
Is
a game recently where you purged all the humans?
Only at the end.
Uh-huh.
And I was the orcs. I was making a continent for the orcs. It was the intention of my nation. This is the EU4 Anbanar mod, by the way. They let you do some questionable things to other species, and that
Some questionable things?
some questionable things, yeah.
Only a few questionable things.
Or more
Just
like one
mild war
questionable
crimes.
thing at massive scale, perhaps.
What's
Don't
a little
worry, there
war-
were still some humans left at the end.
just a little war crimes between friends.
Yeah.
He wasn't at war, though.
There were plenty of wars to get there.
It doesn't have to be war to be a war crime necessarily.
does that
but-
make it a peace crime? I don't know.
It makes it crimes against humanity.
I didn't see anything in my legal code against doing it, okay?
Yeah, I don't know that orcs are too concerned with crimes against humanity.
In that game, some of them are.
Yeah, but we took care of those earlier.
Anyway,
Where can one even legally purchase a copy of Alpha Centauri at this point? I don't think it's on Steam, is it?
It would, if it was anywhere, maybe Origin because EA owns the rights, but I'm not
Or-
even sure about that. Or
or-
Good Old Games.
Yeah, GOG
Yeah.
would be my best guess, but
GOG would be where I would check first, but I don't know if it has
And
it.
don't go to eBay. That would be crazy.
eBay.
Hey, people still sell old games over there in box and all that.
That's true. Yeah, if you want a physical copy, I guess you could try and channels like that. But
Oh, it is indeed on Good Old Games. I just
It
went
is
and
also
checked.
on the EA app for Windows.
Ew.
I
Good Old
think
Good
Games
Old
has a
Games,
lot of
right
stuff
there.
now. Good Old Games has Warlords 2 Deluxe and Warlords 3 as well.
we've been
Stuff.
talking about petitioning Good Old Games to get Civ 1 and 2 so we can actually play them again.
Hey, the top result on eBay for Alpha Centauri is an install disc that is only $20. So
See?
There you go.
Does anybody
And
still have
some-
disk drives in their computers?
and some of these are going for just like a couple bucks. Like here's one a few down that's it's just the jewel case, that's why. Okay.
No, I haven't put a
yeah.
CD drive in since like my
There's
last
a-
2 builds.
There's a CD only without the box that is $4, and then like 3 below that from a different seller is just the jewel case for $1.25. So for $5 or $6 on eBay, you could get the CD with the original case.
Did they actually discontinue the Origin app? It did. Wow.
Oh, is it now called some? Oh, so they still have an app type thing, but it's not called Origin anymore.
No, it's now called the all-new EA app for Windows.
That's what I mean. At least they're not calling it Origin anymore because that. Ugh. Quit using the name of a much better creative company than you.
Well, what we're looking at is the future of Epic, hopefully. We're
Anyway.
phasing out the Epic Game Store, replacing it with the or the Epic app for Windows. Totally not Chinese malware trademark.
Yeah. Better idea. Go play 24-year-old game that does not have to be run off the Windows Store things. No Chinese spyware.
Also, for the record, I don't hate Chinese. I hate the government.
Yes. That's like that with a lot of places. It's not the people, it's the government.
Anyway, is there anything else in this article we should talk about?
Oh, they did mention the sort of philosophical stuff that's going on in the background about as you're advancing through this, you're in trying to get in contact with planet, but you're also asking deep questions about the nature of humanity and things, and should we even be doing this? And there's a little more beneath the surface than normally when you're doing a 4X.
It actually has a story.
Yeah, there's a story, there's some themes. If you wanted something more modern, the closest thing is Beyond Earth.
Well,
Which
and
means-
philosophy behind it too.
Mm-hmm.
So a story that actually has like substance, not just like vapid plot.
The
Or
green
worse-
guys are the bad guys. Go get them.
Or worse yet, inconsequential lore that is just fluff text that has absolutely nothing to do with the actual game you're playing currently.
In my game, the green guys were the good guys.
I am attracted to the part where it says that we are talking about deep philosophical stuff, and we're not talking about everything in a very one-sided. Corporate greed is bad, clinging to traditions is bad, pushing for change for the sake of change is always good, that kind of stuff. It gives you the opportunity. I think, does this game let you like navigate it in your own way and not like go all in towards one direction?
Sure, you can even completely swivel directions if you want to.
But it's not efficient.
Sometimes efficiency isn't the point.
Have to win. Must win. Must optimize to win.
See, it's like the Arc Corporation and Beyond Earth. Yes, the Arc Corporation is the largest corporation, and yes, they own a lot of stuff, and a lot of people work on Arc totally controlled areas, but Arc is not in it solely for just making money. If you read their Wikipedia or their Civipedia article, they actually do seem to care about what they're doing, and they are not adverse to taking hundreds of years of losses, even if the outcome is worth the trouble.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to like go into the Civilopedia to find stuff like that out. It would be
Yeah.
kind of nice if, the personality of the faction were represented within the game somewhere while you're playing it.
Maybe more than one voice line per leader would be great.
That would have helped a lot, yes. Remember,
Yeah.
no village has ever been ruined by trade.
Yeah, whereas in Alpha Centauri, each new tech had one of the leaders talking about it within, the context of whatever tech you had just researched.
That
Some
would have
quote
been
from
excellent.
Well, Beyond
Yeah.
Earth tried to do that too, but Beyond Earth made the mistake of just having like a single narrator narrate all of them, so it like wasn't. And you don't
Yeah.
recognize any of these names because none of these names are like real historic people that like and they're not ever brought up anywhere else in the game. So you have to do like a whole lot of digging through, extraneous reading material to figure out the context behind any of those quotes. Whereas Alpha Centauri would have the leader in the game read their relevant quotes so that you know who's saying it and have that, extra degree of context behind it. And then it also helps to inform that leader's personality, whether or not you actually encounter, an analogous situation in the game itself.
Yeah.
You got to know their personality long before you ever met them in game because of the quotes. So you kind of knew what to expect, how they were going to react to whatever you were doing.
And I don't know if like more development time would have helped with that. If they were just working on a quick schedule, they didn't have time to put in stuff like that. Who knows?
I'm pretty
Maybe
sure
they just didn't think of it.
I'm pretty sure the issue with Beyond Earth in that context was they weren't sure how to do it in a way that wouldn't be obtrusive to people who weren't looking for it to be Alpha Centauri. Like they had to do the balance between futuristic Civ and homage to a much older game with a much older audience. So there's that. And also they did kind of only have like a year or so after Civ 6 was finished to make the game. So it was Beyond Earth is literally a total conversion mod made in-house. And
and it was Civ 5, not Civ 6.
Yeah, Civ 5, but they may not have been able to shoehorn in enough elements that would make it more relatable into the Civ 5 system. Hard to say.
Yes, it is a sadly underdeveloped and a little bit underrated game.
I don't think it's underdeveloped.
Better than its I think it's better than its reputation.
Well, and yeah, I think in playing with other Civ people, we've talked about it. It's like it needed one more expansion, and that probably would have.
And just a little bit more of what we were just talking about, just a little bit more of the personal, touch for the stuff that's fluff. Like it's just all of it is so stale and impersonal. Like just a little bit more, thought going into it would have made a whole lot of difference. But it's tough to do that when you have to turn something around in like a year or 18 months or however heck long the development time for that was.
Not very long.
Yeah, not long at all.
Yeah, and there was like enough copies of Beyond Earth sold to get it the first expansion, but then the second that expansion didn't sell well enough to justify that. So they're like, we'll just go on and do Civ 6 stuff now.
Which is also sad because that expansion was a really good expansion.
Yeah, it was probably
it introduced
the best Civ expansion ever made.
Yeah, it introduced a lot of ideas that I wish had made it into Civ 6.
Yes, can we please have the war score system back? Can we have the respect and fear system back?
Yeah, and that's probably the single best idea that was in it, was like dividing relations into both fear and respect, so that you have friends who actually like you, but also enemies who dislike you, but are also so afraid of you because you're so powerful that they will give you what you want because they don't want you to take it by force.
I recall a war score system needed some work, but it was conceptually very good idea to add something like that.
It needed work, but it worked really well if you were conquering a Civ and just wiping it out. You would get some of their tech, and you would get a lot of their stuff, and that was really nice because why is it that if I don't understand some of a particular affinity, would I not be able to pull it out of the ruins of what I destroyed taking it? It's not like I blew up every computer in their civilization.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how much in balance and such, but yeah.
I don't remember it being super oppressive.
No, it wasn't. Not in Beyond Earth, but you do have to watch that because Conquest is already strongly incentivized in pretty much all these games.
This is why, while we could take away tech and stuff in earlier Civs, they took it out after a certain point. I forget which one they took it out from, but it's like
5.
No, that's a little okay, yeah, because it is really a little too powerful to. Why do research? Just make an army and go curb stomp everything, and then suddenly, hey, they did the research for me.
You were probably not going to be able to get much in peace deals in Civ 4 already in terms of tech. That was super expensive. So it was really out by then, all in practice.
Yeah, in practice.
Remember, I remember it not being too hard though to trade text with friendly civs. They were usually,
trading was a completely different matter
Yeah.
because they valued text a lot, but you could also trade text, which they valued a lot. But to like buy text with money, or especially to win a war so hard that you could demand text without like, like just based on the fact that you're crushing them, that was pretty tough to do without like eliminating the target. So it's
Because
pretty
they
hard to milk
value
them
the
for that.
text so much.
Yeah, more than their lives, a lot more than their lives generally.
Well, to be fair, if you teach the invading army the secret of gunpowder, you're probably not going to have a life to value too much longer.
I mean, they're hosed anyway. Like I'm talking like they're holding out on like 2-3 cities. They're about to get wiped off the map, and they won't give you like a tech that 5 other civs have. Like it's that kind of.
Yeah, no, I get what you're
Well,
saying.
I guess in a sense, by giving it such a high value, they programmed spite into the AI.
Or they didn't want you to consolidate gains from conquest too quickly. Is probably the
No,
reason.
sure, that's the practical reason, but the fun reason is the AI now knows how to spite. Because in real life, if that was your situation, you'd probably burn your library down just because F that guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people do that. I mean, people like delete their capital fort and dominions and stuff if you'll let them.
You wanted this developed level 5 fort? Nope.
Not allowed.
Yeah. That's tricky to actually do though, because you can't do that while you're under siege.
So the takeaway here is go play some old games. They're still fun, even if it's not as pretty or the interface is a little clunky.
Be
And not just
warned,
Alpha.
the interface for Alpha Centauri is very interesting. It doesn't follow any modern conventions, really. So it's kind of a fight to play it.
And
But it's
remember,
worth it.
everyone, nerf stapling is the correct way to play.
Let's go on to another old game that just got a new
Search
release.
your heart. You know it to be true, Mackie.
No.
Yeah, well, if you are into old games, especially old civilization adjacent games, there is also a fan-made version of the old school colonization called FreeCol, which I guess just had its 1.0 release back on January 1st, or will be releasing soon. Has it actually released by now?
I guess the
There-
link I gave is from January of May of 2020. So maybe
Yeah.
I should go to
Post,
the...
there's new replies to that thread, like as of like yesterday. So on January 1st, they replied in that thread that FreeCol version 1.0 will be releasing soon. It's post number 14 in the thread you linked. So, and then after that is them talking about release information and bug fixes and patches and stuff. But I'm not sure if it actually did release or if it's still imminent.
Monday, January 2nd. On this day, 20 years ago, we made the first public release of FreeCol. Today, we are pleased to announce FreeCol 1.0. Does it say that it's released yet? It says released in the title. See if I can download a 1.0.
Yes, I guess so. There was also
Yeah, if you go to
5
the
days
download,
ago,
if you can go to the download page and just literally download FreeCol 1.0.
yeah. There's also what looks like a little mini review on PC Games N, which was also linked in the thread that was posted 5 days ago as of this recording. And they say that there is the 1.0 release. So it came out sometime in the last week. But yeah, basically it's a straight up fan made remake of the original colonization. The one that the Civilization 4 colonization game was based off of, because there was a colonization game before that. So if you played the Civilization 4 colonization, then this is a similar thing, but with the 2D sprite-based graphics.
And as I understand it, it's almost a perfect recreation of it.
Yeah, I've never played the original colonization, but I have played the Civ 4 one, and I do like it quite a bit. I've still, on occasion, have gone back and played it a little bit more from time to time.
I did as well. I played quite a bit. I even added John Adams from that to my regular Civ 4 game, because why not? They made art, might as well put the art in.
Yeah, sure.
So next up on our topic list, we've got a video from whiteandnerdytv, who I'll be honest, I'd never heard of before I watched this video. And he does a reaction and analysis to the Great Commanders pack from the Leaders Pass. So he talks about Nadar Shah and Tokugawa and Saladin Magnificent. If that's how you pronounce it, I don't know. But he basically just goes over the stuff that we probably have already gone over. Specifically, that Tokugawa, while not particularly designed for being a fighter, is really good at leading the game because of his abilities. I don't remember exactly what he said about Solomon, but I don't think he's very good personally. And
well, if I remember correctly, Suleiman had the problem of like not having access to like the other Ottoman abilities that made them really good because they were attached to the other leader, right? Like you don't get the Janissaries and stuff like that.
You don't get the Janissaries and you don't get the custom governor.
Yeah, those are pretty helpful things to have.
Well, it looks like Potato McWhiskey earlier this week was doing a run as the Ottomans, and it's like Ottoman artillery apparently is the key. You forget Janissaries, just blow everything up.
Yeah, their ability is the cannon thing, isn't it? The civilization ability is about cannons.
I think so, yeah.
Civ 6 Ottomans Civ ability plus 50% production bonus to artillery. And okay, whoever wrote this is I'm going to guess that they are an ESL person just because it didn't make sense. Let's try it from the wiki. 50% bonus production to siege units. Siege units gain +5 combat strength against defensible districts. Conquering a city doesn't cause that city to lose population. +1 amenity and +4 loyalty per turn for cities founded that are not Ottoman, or cities not founded by the Ottomans.
Conquer everything.
So the ability is people like being conquered by the Ottomans.
Yeah,
is my takeaway.
So if you don't like the loyalty mechanic griefing you, you'll get griefed a little bit less while running this.
And for those who don't remember, the Suleiman Magnificent ability is plus 15% science and gold in a heroic age, and they get the +4 combat strength versus civilizations not in a golden age, even though the Ottomans are not also in a golden age.
Yeah, you have to like both not be, right?
Yeah, both not being in a golden or heroic age.
Yeah.
Dislikes those in dark ages.
Well, dark ages are not golden ages, so you do get the combat bonus against them.
Yeah. That's a good thing for the AI to capitalize on.
He looks at your Dark Age Empire and is like, you suck.
You'll be much happier as an Ottoman.
Yeah.
We can take your children, force them into the military, and then send them to the far parts of the Empire where they'll die.
They might not die. There's a chance they'll live.
They may not die, but there's 100% chance they're never coming home.
And that might be for the best.
Maybe, but not for the parents.
And just send the parents too. Take quantity ideas.
Oh, family road trip.
Yeah.
You're going to be going fighting rogue corsairs in the Mediterranean. But I'm from Serbia. Get over it, kid. So now it's time to talk about score victory.
Talk about what?
Score victory?
Yeah, what's that? Maybe someone can explain it.
I assume Mackie is opening the page.
Yeah, sorry, too many tabs. Good grief. Computer, please. Over on Civ Fanatics, Insidious Mage is like, so anybody else like score victory? They've tried a couple of games of leaders that don't have victory types they're particularly good at, and they set the turn limit to 285, which they say that's about when they normally end their games anyway. Was it normally 300 or 350?
The standard era game
400, I think, right?
At 500.
Oh, okay.
And the quick speed, I believe, ends at 330.
Oh, goodness. They made it super short. I mean, they are right in the sense that probably by the time they get to turn 285, it's technically over, even though it's not, over.
I mean, you can win outright by then.
Easily.
For sure.
Yeah. But they had fun doing that. Instead of having to hyper-focus on a specific adjective, you just keep accumulating all the points. They didn't have to worry about min-maxing, and they're like, I think I like this better.
I mean, I guess that is one way to end a game that's over, is to just decide it on the score.
Yeah, well, if they've got the turn limit set down anyway, they know when they get that point, it's going to be if they have the highest score, so they're trying for score, but they're not having to do something like when you're doing a culture victory and having to min-max the crap out of everything, which, ugh.
Yeah, I felt the bar.
Playing to a score victory is something that I actually used to do a lot with Civ 4 and a little bit in Civ 5 when I just felt like role playing a little bit more instead of like you said, playing to a particular victory, because then I could just kind of do whatever I felt the Empire needed me to do, regardless of whether it pointed me in a specific victory direction. Because I very much missed the what was it, the domination victory type or conquest victory, whichever was the one in Civ 4 that was like you had to control 60% of
domination.
Yeah, 60% of the land or 60% of the population, or
conquest was eliminating or vassalining everybody.
Yeah, I
if
missed
you did like a vassal chain, it was not too uncommon to reach the requirements for domination and conquest simultaneously.
Yeah, I really missed that victory condition because I felt it gave a lot more leeway to just play as you wanted to and pivot in different directions as you needed to, rather than just like, oh, well, gotta build nothing but science or gotta build nothing but culture.
Yeah, but if you had that much of the map, you could win pretty much any way you wanted to generally. So it's just a way of ending a conquest game sooner. And I did like it better than like controlling all the original capitals. That's a little bit, I don't know.
There was always that one capital that was just like, nope, that's not happening.
Yeah,
yeah, there's that, but also like domination feels like you the way you do it in like 5 and 6, you're like ninjaing capitals, whereas domination in 4, you are dominating. You own way more than any historical empire.
Yeah, I feel like owning half of the game's capitals or more than half of the game's capitals should be sufficient to demonstrate that you've dominated.
Well, if you just go with capitals, though, the problem with that is that like sometimes like a good chunk of the capitals will be coastal, so you can literally just snipe. Like on a single turn, you just declare on like 4 AI and move into their capital, and they only get a chance to react before you win. Like,
yeah,
so I'm not as big a fan of that. Whereas like controlling 60+% of the landmass.
Yeah,
that's not something you do overnight, or if it is, then you earned it. You definitely are dominating if you're rolling people up like a blanket to that extent.
Yeah, and you definitely have to be taking more than just the capital. Like you're taking whole countries at that point,
yeah,
not just the capital and its adjacent countryside.
Yeah, that's a victory you pretty much earned when you got it in Civ 4. But it did also just let you end the game, which was nice. So yeah, I guess I guess that is one way to wrap the game up, though. My only problem with it is sometimes score doesn't reflect position.
It would be kind of nice if instead of being able to just set the end turn on which the score is calculated, there was a way to like set a score as the victory score. Like first to achieve so-and-so score wins, regardless of what turn it happens on.
Oh, yeah. That could work too.
That would require the score to be more reflective of what actual power looks like.
Yeah,
it would.
Done.
But if you already have a thing where you're just arbitrarily cutting off the game at some arbitrary turn number and calculating the score, then it's like the same problem. So it would be at least nice to have the flexibility of being like, okay, well, if no one is a clear winner, then the game goes on a little longer, as opposed to just like, it's turn, what do they say, 285? I'm winning by 2 points. I win. Even though there's still like the whole industrial and modern and information eras left to go in the tech tree.
And by the way, get wrecked.
And you could also do like is it tennis or volleyball, where like you have to not only score more points, but like you have to win by like 2 points or something like that.
Volleyball.
Is that volleyball? Yeah, you could do something like that, where also if you have to reach a certain score and also be ahead by so much, and then you win. So it's not just like, oh, I got to, the magical score of 500 points and, the second place person's at like 498. I win.
I think it's also true in tennis.
Yeah, but it's two sets, not just 2 points.
If memory serves, I think it's also true in badminton, but who cares about that? It was
I've
the
played
only
that
sport
for a
in
while.
high school I was good at. So it's time to go into the research lab now.
Indeed. So now we have ideas for victories, such as red victory and yellow victory and blue victory.
Red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Well-
red, green, and blue victory.
Well, I decided to mix it up a little bit.
I think it's more red, white, and blue victory, red victory,
Ugh.
and orange victory.
That's true, I guess.
Because
yeah, so
what
there's
this-
a video here that was proposing some different ways to approach the end game of Civ. And yeah, at one point it really did feel like Hearts of Iron, like pick your ideology.
The idea was because there are 3 ideologies that have their priority toward the end of the game, i.e. capitalism, communism, and fascism, that there should be victory conditions involving those 3 ideologies such that the player would no longer be needed according to the ideals that would initiate such a victory. So the idea being
But we already have a word for a victory like that. It's called conquest.
Well, for the sake of argument, let's talk about this the non-conquest way.
Well, here the problem is though, like if you are one of these ideologies, like you're a fascist or you're a communist, and there's a fascist or communist opposed to you in the world, you can't really say that as a leader you've done your job and now you can just walk away and there's nothing left to do in this world.
Well,
if there's a giant hostile civ of a different ideology that is willing and possibly able to do something about yours.
True. But the idea, I would assume, is that you conquer everyone else before that.
Then you've won already.
Well, that's the main criticism of this concept, is that you're just dragging out the game. But the idea is to set requirements that you reach the ideology's utopia state to win the game.
So, like, if you had capitalism, you could do like what it was in Alpha Centauri, where, particularly if you were playing as Morgan, you were trying to go for where you owned the energy market, which would be effect like you owned all the stock market or something like that. Like you had so much, your country had so much wealth and power that you could just buy everybody off.
That's the monopoly victory. That's not a capitalist victory.
Well,
the way they're talking about the capitalist victory in this particular case was you get to the point where the government, i.e. the player, has privatized all of the actions in the economy and in the game such that the leader is no longer needed, i.e. the private market can take care of everything itself. And at that point, you would have achieved the victory condition of capitalism because you're no longer needed to make the demand or the command orders that would go against such an ideology. And
again, this doesn't make sense if there's any other states in the world.
Yeah. And then for fascism, you would conquer everybody and make everybody uniformly identify as a single group that is considered the in-group, and that's their idea of utopia. And the communist one is where the leader no longer has to do anything because the communes take care of it.
I don't see how also like things like score or culture aren't abstractions of this that fit at the scale of Civ.
They absolutely are. That's why this topic, to me, feels like it's more about talking about the ideologies themselves rather than the actual gameplay things. Because it seems like when he's talking about victories, he's not thinking about the gameplay consequences of what he's doing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of an important consideration, though, obviously.
yeah, because what is the point of doing something like fascism if you're just going to do conquest anyway to do it? It's like, but you've
Well,
already
all
won.
of these sound like they need conquest to be realized, because otherwise you still have something to do, which is defend yourself militarily against the other ideologies. Now, you could like maybe further stratify the tangible benefits and drawbacks of each of these in a Civ context, but like not only is that a landmine to some extent, but Civ's been doing that for a while now.
I was going to say, Civ 5 had ideologies that were really well fleshed out.
Yeah, although, I mean, again, in the game sense, you kind of have to take liberties, because like you're effectively running a command economy in Civ, like from start to finish. Anyway,
yeah,
and
but
yeah, I mean, they're obviously going to make the command economies way more effective in the game than they would be in practice, in part because you're already running one, and in part because if they didn't, you'd have no incentive to pick them ever. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the other alternative is to go the exact opposite way, like what Civ 2 tried to do, and actually make it so that if you do have a democratic government, you actually are subject to democratic processes and do not have total command control over your government and economy.
Did you want to declare war? Nope, got to run it by Congress.
Screw
Well,
that.
sort of. You could play around that a little bit, but
I mean, yeah, like hypothetically, like you could go all out on a design philosophy like that, and you could have, the game set up or designed so that, yeah, if you're in like a democratic kind of government, like, even like your settlers are like NPC units that go out and settle their own cities, and you don't get to say where your cities are.
Oh,
And then
AI city placement, man.
and they build their own things, and like the best you can do is maybe like gently guide, point in the general direction of this is where I want you to go, but whatever, you're free to go wherever you want.
it would be interesting to see how many players enjoy that experience.
Oh,
Because
I
like
imagine not too
having
many.
the game's outcome depend on what the player does, aka agency, is a pretty important thing, especially in a strategy title, which Civ still calls itself and still is, but it wouldn't be if it's like that, probably.
No, it would be more of a society simulator. And we know how those go, don't we, SimCity societies? If anyone remembers that game, which nobody with a good memory should.
Yeah, I don't know that I've even heard of it, but
It
wouldn't be my cup of tea, so it wouldn't be something I would like look to.
It was the SimCity that came out between SimCity 4 Rush Hour and SimCity 2003, The Death Knell of Maxis. And it was not SimCity at all. You didn't zone things, and you didn't worry about any of the things you did in the SimCity series. What you did was you provided services and tried to provide a budget by using the services in a certain way. So it was not SimCity at all.
Well, and I think if I remember correctly, I didn't play it, but if I remember correctly from like previews and reviews, you were also trying to like appease various demographics.
Yes.
Yeah, like each neighborhood had like a different demographic or whatever, and you had to do, services and policies that made the most demographics happy at the same time in order to like succeed at the scenario.
It was like Identity Politics, the game. It was not fun.
Though
HOA the game, except it's a whole city, this the HOA.
Ooh, who doesn't like HOAs though?
To be fair to Civilization, though, like the ideas of self-governance are actually still pretty new, and like the vast majority of human civilization has been some variety of command government economy.
That's a long conversation, but generally yes.
I don't know how you get away from it in games though, because like
yeah.
you want your decisions to matter in games, so like you make them more command economy like by necessity.
Like, there's a reason why I will never call Civ a historical game, because no game that has that kind of model can possibly be historical, because the economy doesn't work that way.
Well, I would call it an historical game. I would not call it a history game. It is historical in that it is like loosely based and inspired on history, but not historical in the sense that it actually replicates history.
See, I would flip those words around. It's a game based on figures and ideas and countries from history, but it's not historical in the sense that it doesn't follow history.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you might be right, yeah. That might be...
We might also be quibbling.
Yeah,
this is always fun in Paradox game arguments are always fun when it gets to this part.
Oh no. Let's move on quickly. We don't want to be another Paradox Plaza Echo, whatever they have. Bell Chamber Echo something. We have one final topic for today, and that topic is...
Yes, negative traits or drawbacks or banes or whatever you want to call them in Civilization games. Do you like them or do you not like them? There is a thread from back in November on Civ Fanatics titled Civilization Design with Negative Bonuses, asking, what do you think of civs that have drawbacks? like inherent to their abilities if their abilities are very powerful. I guess the classic example would maybe be Gandhi in Civilization 5, where you actually got more unhappiness from, I think it was number of cities.
Yeah, it was the best wide civ in.
But
in
yes,
Civ 5.
It was the
we
best.
calculated there was a cutoff point, an inflection point, where once you got your cities to a specific size, and I think it was 6 population, it's just all bonuses from then on. It's just
India was one of the least popular civs, but it was also one of the best for growing.
right,
like-
because there was a misconception that founding a lot of cities would hurt you, and that was absolutely not the case unless those cities were just really small cities throughout the entire game.
Unless you were doing Infinite City Sleaze, it was not a problem.
Well, I mean, one of the problems was when Civ 5 did first release,
Show you sleaze.
Infinite City Spam was like the meta, because every city center like generated like +2 gold and +2 science or something like that.
Yep,
So
you can see that on Phil's YouTube channel.
Yeah, so the meta when vanilla Civ 5 first released was to build all cities 3 tiles apart, covering every available tile on the map, and just farm gold and science, and then win the game. And Gandhi was definitely not good at that. But then once they, after like 6 or 8 months or whatever, when they started changing the happiness rules and they took away the free gold and science from city centers.
Well, it was every 2 months and every subsequent 2 months until the first expansion came out. And the game was different every time. So Civ 5 is kind of hard to chart the history of.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth on like just the design philosophy of the entire game for like that first year after release. But yeah, so Gandhi was very bad for the meta, the optimal meta of the game when it first released. But after that year, and when the first expansion came out, and the game was more about building like 4 or 5 core cities and doing tradition policy, then suddenly Gandhi became very, very good, because once you got to 6 population, you were just half happiness, or double happiness or half unhappiness or whatever it was for like the rest of the game. And it was like golden ages every, all the time for India. So like that would probably be the classic example. I don't know if it's necessarily the best example of like a drawback. Like I'm trying to think of, I know there's some
most
civs
prominent example.
Yeah, I know there's some
Bless you.
civs in Civ 6 that have like limitations. I guess maybe another good example in Civ, and another good example in Civ 5 might be Venice, like not being able to settle your own cities would be a drawback, I guess. But
one of my
Just
favorite
conquer.
memories was drunk in Venice.
Elaborate.
That was that one turncast where I had a lot of alcohol, picked honor on Venice, and went on a conquering spree, and wound up with the high score at the end somehow. That was a fun run for sure.
That was certainly one way to acquire new cities with Venice.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
only
you
way
have
to
to buy
acquire
them
new
or
cities
conquer
is
them.
Venice.
No, you could use merchants too. I did get one. I did get a second city using the merchant method to like take a city state. But everything else was persuaded to join me by force.
But I'm trying to think of in Civ 6 if there's any good examples of civilizations with like a built-in drawback in their ability. Like I'm pretty sure there's a couple. I'm just totally spacing on who they are. I don't know if any of you
The
three.
Mali.
Yeah,
Congo.
what was the Mali's? Yeah, Congo, I guess, would be one where you can't found a religion. And considering that religion is a victory condition, that actually is a pretty substantial handicap.
Mali gets minus production but plus gold.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that would be a good example. I feel like there's a couple more, but I'm spacing.
Egypt in Civ 5 had the golden tomb that replaced the temple, which was like, okay, you get a few extra yields from your temple building, but if your city gets conquered, the enemy gets more gold.
Yeah, it was an open invitation to conquer an Egyptian city with a tomb. So there haven't been too many examples of this in Civilization, but there's plenty of examples of this sort of design in lots of other games. Especially, I play a lot of board games that have lots of examples where a faction has like a bonus power and then some drawback, and every faction in the game has those. And they balance each other out and play against each other, and that could be very good design. But like you have to think about it and kind of design your entire faction system around that idea. I don't know if you necessarily want like all civs to have, or most civs to have bonuses, but then you've just got like a couple that have like a explicit drawback, because that does make those particular factions then look less appealing to players, even if, like with the example of Gandhi and Civ 5, even if it is like an easy thing to overcome and then just get lots of snowballing benefits from once you've overcome it. There's a knee-jerk reaction from a lot of players that, ooh, I don't want to play this faction. They're not good.
I think that's okay though, especially when you have so many playable civs. To have some that require more nuance to be able to do well with.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I guess when you're getting up to the point where you have like 60, 70, 80 leaders, where is Civ 6 at right now in terms of leader count? Or
A lot.
We're somewhere in there, right? Like 70, 80 leaders?
Yeah, we have a friggin' ton, so I think it's okay to have some that are like off-putting to rookies or whatever.
Yeah, and maybe not so much if you've got like 10 leaders, right? And like one of them has like an explicit drawback. It's kind of like, I don't know about that one, but yeah, there are plenty of options in Civ 6, that's for sure.
After the free offer of Julius Caesar and the upcoming leader pass, the total number of leaders will be 67, the largest number of playable leaders in any Civilization game to date.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I for one am definitely not opposed to the idea of having, explicit drawbacks or penalties for a civ, as long as it's thematic and it's like an interesting play style. Like some of the actually most interesting civilizations in Civ 5 and Civ 6 kind of fall under that category. Like there was the aforementioned Venice, was one of the most unique and interesting civs to play as in Civ 5, and then in Civ 6, like Maori, starting out on the ocean. I don't know, some people might look at that as a penalty, but I mean, it's definitely something that differentiates the Maori from every other faction in the game, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you have to go find your starting settlement spot. Like that's that could be a pretty substantial handicap, especially if you're unlucky and every direction you try going, there's like a civ already there.
Yeah, enough people actually like that they were trying to suggest, what if we had a nomad civ? You're roaming around on land in the same way. I mean, maybe that's a trait. Nomad, either sailor nomad or land nomad. That sounds weird when I say that, but it's probably a better name for that.
Yeah, for sure. And that would also probably fit well with a culture that has a, nomadic or pastoral history where, maybe you do start out nomadic. Even if all the gameplay mechanics are geared towards settling down and building cities, at least at the start of the game, you represent that aspect of that culture's history.
Yeah, you get a built-in buffer for a few turns before you actually settle your city, and you have more chance to choose maybe a very nice location. Like maybe you needed to go 3 tiles over, and then, oh my gosh, here's a wonder. Here's all this stuff. Wow.
Just stay nomadic. Be Genghis Khan.
Well, people have asked to do that before too, so future civ maybe.
Like how in CK2, it's like he sounds like a nice guy when he spawns in.
There is a post a little bit down this thread from MDL 5000 saying, frankly, I find a lot of Civ 6 bonuses nearly incomprehensible, at least at first glance. I definitely sympathize with that user. I do think a lot of these abilities are way too wordy. There's a few civilizations in the game where when you're on the game setup screen, picking your civilization, they have like that little pop-out window that shows the leader and all their abilities. There are some leaders and civilizations where the text of the ability does not fit on that screen, and you can't scroll it either. So, that's...
I feel like you could be more succinct there generally and still convey the mechanic.
Yeah, so definitely... I would definitely prefer to have slightly simpler, more elegant abilities, as opposed to, some of these factions where it's just like +1 yield on this tile and +1 yield on that tile and +1 yield on that improvement. And, like, oh my goodness, what do I do with this civ?
You work those tiles, man.
Well, yeah. But some of those overwhelmingly long ability explanations are also a little bit of a off-putting for me
I agree.
as a player.
And I think some of them are much longer than they need to be to convey what abilities you're actually getting. Like, I don't think that I don't know, maybe that's not true for all of them, but some of them just, they're wordy.
Yeah, the actual writing, it's a simple idea, but the actual way that Firaxis's writers write some of these is like, there's got to be a more succinct way that you could have put that.
Yeah. Press this button if you want to hear the high prose version. But yeah, the concept's been around for a while, and I think it's here to stay, and I think that's a good thing too, in terms of like getting benefits at the cost of pretty significant trade-offs in some cases. But I'm sure it won't be like every Civ. No one's gonna want that. Anything else we want to say about that?
I think we're ready.
Okay, I was starting to worry if I'd cut out on Discord.
Nope.
Well, in that case, thank you everyone for joining us on episode 414 from the MeInTeam, and we were joined by CanusAlbinus.
I hate medication.
Makahlua.
More caffeine required. Please insert medication.
And MegaBearsFan.
Okay, I guess I'll go take down those Halloween decorations now.
Good plan.
Canor is a continent for orcs.
Is it?
It is now.
Murdering people.
Nuh-uh.
Didn't you murder like 500 other races too?
I pretty much set everything that wasn't orc to purge.
And so how many people lived in the Empire of Ambinar?
Well, we don't really consider them people.
Oh boy.
Canor's for orcs.
Oh, great. Also, Mackie, I sent your pop filter in the mail today.
Ah.
Pop filter?
Yes, I can put it in front of the mic, and so I'm not like spitting on it or something.
Oh, that.
There was one episode sometime back where there was a lot of hissing from Mackie, and I was like, oh, we just give her one of my extra mic things. See if that helps.
I don't know why, but like the first thing that came to mind for me was like pop music. And I'm like, that can't be right. And the second thing that came to mind for me was like pops as in the orcish pops, like we were just talking about from Ambinar or something. And I'm
Oh,
like,
jeez.
that also doesn't seem right. So it took me a moment to like piece together what might actually be referenced from that. I'm sure Mackie would make a fine purger.
Not really the purge type.
It's even funnier when you like play as like halflings and do it. Or some similar race.
Well, you don't have to purge. You just play halflings and humiliate everybody else, and it's great.
Oh, of course. Although they got buffed, so like it's not as impressive to win with them anymore, so that's less fun.
Oh, boo.
Now it's like goblins and kobolds are the worst militaries, by a margin too, until like very late game. But I like goblins. It's funny to beat things down as goblins.
Civilization 3, 4, 5, Beyond Earth, and 6 sound clips. Copyright Take-Two Interactive. Copyright the PolyCast at thepolycast.net.